I remember the exact moment it started, not with an announcement, not with a press release. No, it began with a tweet. A single, casually smug tweet from Elon Musk that read, "Some rockets reach orbit. Others just reach press conferences." It was barely 140 characters, but the subtext hit like a meteor. Everyone knew who it was aimed at. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon and Blue Origin, had just unveiled a new lunar lander prototype, live-streamed in grand Bezosian fashion, moody lighting, futuristic music, applause cued on time. A show. Elon's tweet dropped minutes later. No names, just salt. Within hours, Blue Origin responded with a slick promo video showing their lander beside a Tesla Roadster slowly sinking into lunar dust, a not-so-subtle jab at Musk's famous SpaceX stunt. The caption, "We build for progress, not performance art." The crowd went wild. And by crowd, I mean the internet, Twitter, Reddit, every tech forum, every late-night show. Bezos vs. Musk was trending worldwide before breakfast. At first, it was fun. Memes flew. YouTubers made breakdowns like it was a boxing match. But behind the curtain, something far more serious was brewing, because this wasn't just billionaires bickering. This was two empires, Tesla and Amazon, quietly redirecting their gravitational pull. And when giants pull away from each other, everything in between feels it. 3 days after the tweet, Tesla announced it would no longer use AWS servers to host any of its back-end services, citing redundancy concerns. The real reason? Bezos. That same week, Amazon suddenly delisted Tesla merchandise from its marketplace. Chargers, accessories, even Tesla-branded phone cases disappeared overnight. No warning. Just gone. Some called it pettiness. Others called it posturing. But anyone watching closely could see it. This was the start of a trade war, and not just any trade war. This was personal. I had a front row seat, reporting for a mid-tier tech column that usually got buried behind bigger names. But suddenly, everything was urgent. Everyone was watching, because in less than a month, things would spiral out of control. Musk retaliated by announcing that all Tesla models would block integration with Amazon Alexa. Voice surveillance shouldn't be built into your car, he quipped on stage, mid-keynote. The crowd laughed. Investors did not. Bezos answered with a whisper. Amazon Prime would drop exclusive Tesla content from its streaming lineup and instead ink a deal with Rivian. 2 weeks later, they showcased an electric delivery van in a Super Bowl ad, branded, "Powered by Independence." That word independence would come up a lot, and then came the headlines. Markets started to shift. Entire industries held their breath. Tech stocks wobbled like they'd sensed a seismic tremor coming. Behind closed doors, lobbyists moved. CEOs picked sides. Old allies turned wary. And still, the public mostly watched like it was entertainment, until the first boycott began. It started small. A Reddit thread titled, "Don't Buy Bezos," hit the front page. Then, TikTokers staged dramatic Amazon cart deletions. Next, Tesla owners posted viral videos of themselves ripping Alexa out of their dashboards with dramatic flair. For a moment, it felt like rebellion. Until the consequences hit, supply chains jammed, prices surged, thousands of Amazon employees faced project cuts. Tesla's software updates were delayed, and that's when the mood changed. What began as an online feud had metastasized into a corporate Cold War with real-world fallout. And the people caught in the middle weren't billionaires. They were customers, workers, families, freelancers, small business owners, the people who depended on Amazon's logistics and Tesla's technology for daily life. The internet, once amused, began to simmer with something else, frustration, and soon, fury. But the worst part? Neither Musk nor Bezos showed any sign of stopping. In fact, they were just getting started. They called it, the Silicon Siege. Not in jest, not anymore. What began as corporate brinkmanship was now unfolding like a digital blockade. And no one was safe from the fallout. 2 weeks after the first trade strikes, the sanctions began. Real ones. Not from governments, from boardrooms. Amazon Web Services, AWS, the spine of half the internet, quietly amended its client agreements. Any company with substantial holdings by Tesla Incorporated or its subsidiaries was suddenly deemed high risk for service continuity, which meant delayed server responses. Reduced priority in data center queuing. No more technical support on weekends. It didn't sound dramatic at first. But for smaller Tesla-backed startups, fintechs, AI labs, even an indie game developer or two, it was like cutting off oxygen. Some crashed within days. Musk responded swiftly, and in true Musk fashion, dramatically. On a stage in Austin, flanked by neon Tesla logos, he dropped the bomb. Effective immediately, all Tesla vehicles will terminate native integration with Amazon Music, Amazon Kindle support, and any third-party apps tied to Amazon systems. A pause. Then a smirk. We're not in the business of supporting monopolies. It was a tech world earthquake. Amazon retaliated by halting the shipment of Tesla-related goods in several countries. Not just from their warehouses, from their logistics pipelines. Independent sellers were told Tesla products couldn't be shipped using Prime. Suddenly, your Tesla charger cable. 2-week delivery delay. That wall mount for your Powerwall. Backordered indefinitely. One influencer joked, "I ordered a Tesla hat and got a Bezos branded umbrella instead." But not everyone was laughing. The ripple effects bled into industries untouched by either empire. Aerospace contracts stalled. Joint ventures collapsed. Mutual investments froze. The two titans were tugging at opposite ends of the tech world, and the fabric was beginning to tear, and in the middle of it all, I met one guy, Kenny, a warehouse floor manager from Dayton, Ohio. His team packed Prime orders like clockwork, until suddenly a third of those orders were flagged Tesla adjacent, hold for review. Kenny didn't know who decided that. No one ever told him. But his hours were cut. "I'm just trying to pay rent," he said to me, wiping sweat from his brow in a half-lit corridor. "I don't care who's got the bigger spaceship. I just want my job back." He wasn't alone. Tesla drivers found themselves blocked from using Amazon's audiobook sync service, a feature they'd taken for granted. Parents complained Alexa no longer responded to Tesla calendar prompts. It was death by 1,000 digital paper cuts, but the most surreal part, no one had declared anything. There was no joint statement. No official press briefing. Musk and Bezos hadn't even spoken each other's names in public, and yet the war was everywhere. One insider leak claimed that SpaceX had pulled out of a planned satellite sharing agreement with Amazon's Project Kuiper. Another suggested that Amazon had begun exploring new energy ventures designed to rival Tesla's solar infrastructure under a shell company in Nevada. If true, that wasn't just war, that was escalation. It all hit a boiling point on a Thursday. I remember because it was raining in Los Angeles, which felt metaphorically appropriate, that day. A Tesla software update bricked certain features on cars that used Amazon's smart home APIs. Drivers woke up to locked garages, unresponsive thermostats, lights flickering at random. On Reddit, one post titled, "My car is fighting my house," got 14,000 upvotes in 4 hours. It was no longer business. It was sabotage. Public sentiment flipped fast. First, people joked. Battle of the bald billionaires, they called it. Memes flowed. T-shirts were made. Hashtags were born, but when grocery deliveries lagged, when cloud services crashed, when a small hospital network in Colorado lost AWS support because its billing software used a Tesla-owned AI plugin, the mood changed. People started marching, not online. Outside in Seattle, a group of Amazon employees staged a walkout, not over working conditions this time, but in protest of the anti-competitive sanctions that were affecting vendors. In Austin, a crowd of Tesla employees formed a human chain around the company's data center. Their message: "We build cars. Not chaos." Even Wall Street couldn't ignore it. Tesla stock dipped 8% in one day. Amazon fell 11% the next. It was chaos with no face. No clear villain. Just two men with limitless reach and unbending egos, locked in a game no one else had signed up to play, and still they said nothing. Musk tweeted cryptic memes, Bezos posted filtered sunset photos, neither addressed the people, until the protests spread. That's when I knew it wasn't just a tech war anymore. It was a reckoning, because for the first time in years, the people who built the tech, who drove the cars, who bought the books, who charged the batteries, they weren't cheering from the sidelines. They were fed up, and they were about to make that known. You could feel it in the air, dense, bitter, electric. Something had shifted. This wasn't about two billionaires anymore. It was about the people left picking up the pieces. The protests didn't die out after a weekend. They multiplied. In cities like Chicago and San Francisco, they clogged intersections. In smaller towns, places like Des Moines, Lubbock, Flagstaff, they showed up in parking lots, holding handmade signs and chanting slogans no PR team could spin away. "We are not collateral" was a favorite. So was, "Musk and Bezos pay our rent, not our bills." A survey from a mid-level polling firm dropped like a thunderclap. Over 62% of Americans claimed that tech feud had already affected their daily lives. Delayed packages. Interrupted smart home systems. Price hikes on everything from electric parts to basic groceries. 1 out of every 5 Gen Z respondents said they were actively avoiding Tesla or Amazon services out of protest. Meanwhile, legacy media finally caught on. Not because they cared, but because ratings did. CNN ran a week-long series titled Digital Civil War, When Titans Turn on Each Other. Fox went with the ego wars, Musk versus Bezos and the price we pay. Every major podcast, from business to true crime, had their own version of the same question: how did it get this far? But for all the headlines, the only voices missing were the ones people actually needed to hear: Elon and Jeff. Neither had given a single interview. No press conference. No apology. No truce. Just a growing silence that felt, day by day, more like contempt. And then, as if choreographed by history itself, something cracked. That IT happened on a Monday morning in Atlanta. A major regional fulfillment center, operated by Amazon, suddenly caught fire. Not the whole building, just a warehouse wing holding hundreds of Tesla-related packages. Investigators arrived. Security footage was leaked. A man in a black hoodie, never identified, could be seen entering the service corridor. 32 minutes later, a burst of light and then darkness. The internet exploded. "Inside job," some screamed. "False flag," others shot back. Elon tweeted, "Strange how fires follow those who pretend to be above competition." Bezos didn't respond directly. But hours later, the Amazon news account posted a thinly veiled quote from a Washington Post op-ed: "In war, some men burn bridges. Others build the future." That was the last spark the public needed. The protests weren't protests anymore. They were revolts. Angry, coordinated, and most importantly unified. People who once stood on opposite ends of political lines were now shouting the same thing: enough. The first multi-city boycott was launched that weekend. Organized entirely on social media, it was called Blackout 72, a 3-day commitment to not spend a cent on Tesla or Amazon platforms. Not even a Kindle download. Not even a supercharger stop. Analysts thought it would be symbolic. They were wrong. Over $1.2 billion in projected weekend revenue disappeared. Tesla had to delay payroll bonuses for regional staff. Amazon quietly initiated temporary layoffs at 3 distribution nodes. And for the first time since the war began, both sides blinked. On the 4th morning, something unusual happened. A Tesla app update dropped without warning, restoring Amazon Alexa functionality in limited beta. That same day, Amazon reinstated third-party Tesla accessories on Prime. No announcement. No press. Just restoration. Quiet, partial, nervous. Like two kings realizing their crowns meant little if the kingdom burned, and still, no public apology. No handshake. But the thaw had begun. Shareholders were restless. Union leaders, especially those in Nevada and Michigan, threatened walkouts. International partners, especially in Europe, hinted at regulatory investigations if the two CEOs didn't de-escalate. And then came the final push from a group no one expected. It was the engineers. A joint open letter was published, signed by over 1,200 developers, coders, and technical staff from both companies. Some of them had worked on Alexa. Others had helped design Tesla's software stack. The letter was short, sharp, and brutal. We built tools for progress. Not weapons for billionaires to swing at each other. If this continues, we walk. That landed harder than any boycott. Because the one thing both companies feared more than public rage was talent drain, within 48 hours, the tide turned completely. Both Bezos and Musk, independently, announced that they would appear together at a live-streamed event hosted at Stanford, the birthplace of so much of their shared legacy. The title of the event, Reset. The world held its breath. The live stream began with silence. No theme music, no countdown. Just the Stanford auditorium, dimly lit and already full, the crowd whispering like it was church. Over 2 million people were watching live. On screens in offices, on phones in kitchens, on public displays in Times Square and Berlin and Seoul. Not because they were fans. Not anymore. Because they needed to hear it from them. At last, 2 chairs on stage. 1 table. 2 glasses of water. And nothing else. At 9:01 a.m., Jeff Bezos walked in first. Not in a suit, but in a navy pullover and dark jeans. No entourage, no stage manager, just him. He didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just walked to the chair and sat. 1 minute later, Elon Musk entered from the opposite wing. Black jacket, no tie, unshaven, like he'd just come from a night spent in a server room. They didn't shake hands. They nodded. That was it. The air hung still, then a moderator's voice, a woman, calm, neutral, gentleman. The world is watching. What do you have to say? A pause. Then Jeff leaned forward. I'll start. He looked down for a second, then up. I let it get personal. What began as competition turned into hostility. That's on me. It was plain. Measured. Like someone reading from the last page of a long book, I convinced myself that what I was doing was about protecting my company. But it became about something else, pride. And that pride blinded me to how many people were getting hurt. The moderator didn't speak. Neither did Musk. The silence made it real. Then Bezos turned, slightly, toward Elon. We've disagreed on almost everything. But one thing is true, I underestimated how far this would go. I underestimated you, in some ways. And I forgot, somewhere along the way, that competition doesn't have to mean destruction. Musk looked at him, then took a breath. Jeff's right. I didn't throw the first stone. But I threw the most. Some in the crowd shifted. No applause. No gasps. Just stillness. I told myself I was defending my users, my mission. But I was also enjoying the fight. Too much. The memes, the attention. I got caught up in it. And people paid for that, workers, customers, families. He looked at the crowd, not the camera. When I saw protesters outside a Tesla service center holding signs that said, "We trusted you," it hit harder than any stock dip ever could. The moderator leaned in. Why now? Why this event? Elon answered first this time, because we stopped listening. And the only way to restart anything, is silence first. Then truth. Jeff nodded. And because if we didn't stop it, someone else would have had to. Through laws. Or boycotts. Or maybe even worse. She asked the next question slowly. Do you think you owe people an apology? Both men answered at once. Yes. Bezos added, to our customers. Our employees. Our engineers. We treated your loyalty like leverage. And we can't undo the harm, but we can stop adding to it. Musk followed. To the people who trusted us to build, not break. I lost sight of that. Then something no one expected. Jeff reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded note. He opened it, hesitated for a beat, then read, "Technology is not a weapon. It is a responsibility. When we turn it against each other, we don't just risk our companies. We risk the future we promised our children. He folded it again. That was from an employee who resigned last week. Elon nodded slowly. I got one too. He didn't read it out loud. Just looked down at his hands, then, for the first time, Jeff turned fully to face Elon. I'm willing to start again. Not as friends. Maybe not even as allies. But as grown men who owe the world better. Elon looked up. Agreed. The moderator asked, what does that look like? Starting again. Bezos sat forward. No more digital sanctions. No more backdoor blocks. No more silence when users suffer. We owe the public transparency. Musk added, we're lifting all restrictions on Amazon integrations in Tesla products. Effective now. Bezos followed. AWS will reinstate all Tesla-adjacent accounts and vendors within 48 hours. A ripple moved through the crowd. Nothing dramatic. But meaningful. Like the air exhaled, then came the final question. The one everyone knew was coming. Do you trust each other now? Another pause. But this time, Musk smiled just barely. No. Not yet. Bezos shrugged. Fair. Then Elon added, but we don't need to trust each other. We need to trust the people watching. They'll keep us accountable. That landed harder than any meme. Because this time, it wasn't for show, the moderator stood. That concludes the public forum. The stream ended. But the story didn't end in the weeks that followed. Things began to shift. Tesla reinstated its partnership with Audible. Amazon restored its smart home integrations. Shared ventures, like solar logistics and drone tech, restarted under strict, independent oversight. The boycott faded, not because people forgave but because they finally saw change. The Reddit threads cooled. The protests quieted. Even the media, hungry for conflict, had to admit, something had shifted. Not fixed. But shifted. One clip from the live stream, in particular, went viral. Not because of what was said but what wasn't. That it was the moment Musk and Bezos stood to leave. Elon extended his hand. Jeff looked at it for a second, then took it. No cameras zoomed. No flashbulbs fired. But millions watched, holding their breath, because in that moment handshake or not, what mattered most wasn't whether they liked each other. It was whether they'd learned, and for once, it felt like maybe, they had.